Coming up on Network Africa, Democratic Republic of Congo's government defies pressure over talks with rebel group M23. Floods claim lives in KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa, as hundreds of people lose their homes. Plus, a young child becomes the second person to die of Ebola in Uganda. Hello and welcome to the program today. I'm Layo Olarinde. We begin with stories and happenings that made headlines over the weekend. The UN peace chief visited Beni in the Democratic Republic of Congo as M23 rebels hand over FDLR members to Rwanda. Namibia also buried its founding father, Sam Nujoma, as Egypt confirms a reconstruction plan for Gaza. Here's the summary of weekend stories.
Over the weekend, Jean-Pierre Lacroix, head of UN peace operations, arrived in Beni, North Kivu province, to discuss peace efforts amid ongoing clashes between the M23 rebel group and the Congolese army. Mr. Lacroix met with North Kivu's new provincial governor, Major General Evariste Kakule-Somo, addressing the need for a ceasefire. He emphasized diplomatic efforts under the Luanda and Nairobi processes, the withdrawal of foreign forces, and MONUSCO's potential role in supervising the truce. The visit comes as M23 advances southward, capturing Bukavu after seizing Goma earlier this year. The DRC accuses Rwanda of backing the rebels, a claim Rwanda denies. The conflict has displaced over 7.2 million people, creating one of the world's largest humanitarian crises. Meanwhile, 15 members of the Democratic Forces for the Liberation of Rwanda, a UN-sanctioned armed group, were handed over to Rwandan authorities by the M23 rebel group on Saturday. The FDLR members, including General Ezekiel Gakwerere, were captured by M23 during clashes with Congolese armed forces in eastern DRC. According to M23 deputy political spokesperson Oscar Belinda, the Rwandan officers of the FDLR had been with them for more than 30 years, sowing insecurity and killing the Congolese people. The FDLR, formed in 2000, largely consists of former Rwandan army members involved in the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. On Saturday, hundreds of Namibians gathered to bid farewell to the late President Sam Nujoma in Windhoek, the nation's first democratically elected leader, at Heroes Acre Cemetery. The funeral procession featured a coffin draped in the Namibian flag, with dignitaries including current President Nangolo Mbumba, Zimbabwe's Emmerson Mnangagwa, and South Africa's Cyril Ramaphosa in attendance.
We have gathered on these hallowed grounds, the final resting place of Namibia's heroes and heroines, to lay to rest a most distinguished son of the soil, a giant among leaders and a revolutionary icon. Although our hearts remain laden with grief, we take solace that President Sam Nujoma, who will now rest among his fellow illustrious heroes and heroines, has completed his mission with distinction, fulfilling his destiny and leaving behind the most precious gift of freedom and independence for the people of Namibia.
Locals expressed their sorrow and gratitude for Nujoma's legacy.
We are from Namibia and we just came here to mourn with our fellow Namibians.
Yeah, and to pay our last respects.
To pay our last respects, to pay tribute to the late Honorable His Excellency Dr. Sam Nujoma. What he has taught us, basically he has taught me never to compromise your principles. Yeah, and to always respect where you come from.
Nujoma, who passed away on February 8th at the age of 95, is revered as a leader who secured Namibia's independence from South Africa. He served as president from 1990 to 2005 and was laid to rest after a 21-day mourning period. On Sunday, Egyptian Foreign Minister Sam Nujoma announced that the Gaza reconstruction plan has been finalized and will be presented at the upcoming Arab Summit on Tuesday. Speaking at a joint press conference with EU Mediterranean Affairs Commissioner Dubravka Suica, Shukri stated the plan is completed and Egypt is waiting to present it to Arab brothers at a ministerial meeting and a summit for approval before sharing it with any foreign party.
Also, our main stories for today, the Democratic Republic of Congo says it is standing firm on its decision not to have direct talks with the M23 rebel group, a group that has made major advances in the east of the country in recent months. Despite growing international pressure, DR Congo Prime Minister Judith Tuluka says her government wants to negotiate with Rwanda, which it accuses of backing the M23 rebels. Last week, the UK government added to calls for the group to be a part of an inclusive dialogue to help find a political solution to the conflict. At least 8,500 people have been killed since fighting escalated in January, according to the Congolese authorities. Hundreds of thousands have also been forced from their homes amid the chaos triggered by the fighting that UN experts and others see Rwanda as having a key role. Families fleeing the violence in the Democratic Republic of Congo continue to cross into Burundi seeking safety. In just 2 weeks, over 60,000 people have arrived in Burundi, fleeing deadly conflicts in eastern DRC. Many of them were already displaced inside their country. They are now forced to seek safety across the border, majority of them women and children. Well, Brigitte Mukanga-Eno, the UNHCR representative in Burundi, recently met with the refugees who arrived in Burundi to hear their concerns and also assess the situation there.
We have been receiving refugees from the DR Congo for the past few weeks, but the largest number of refugees started arriving essentially around the 14th, the weekend of the 14th of February, where we got a high number of people crossing from the Rusizi River into Burundi. We are planning to start moving people from here to the location that the government has provided, which is at the refugee settlement in Museni. Museni is in the province of Rutana, far away from the border. So that will be for the safety of everyone.
The UN Under-Secretary General for UN Peace Operations has just concluded a visit to South Sudan. Speaking at a press conference in Juba, the capital, Mr. Jean-Pierre Lacroix, who described his tour as busy and constructive, urged continued support and commitment to South Sudan, especially as it enters the fourth extension of its transitional period, which began on February 22, 2025. The top UN official had sat at several high-level meetings in Juba, including with President Salva Kiir and First Vice President Riek Machar. He acknowledged the significant challenges that the country is facing, even as it struggles to show tangible progress in implementing the 2018 peace deal.
The key purpose of my visit was to convey an important message, actually the fundamental message, which is the continued support and continued commitment of the entire UN family to South Sudan, especially as it enters the fourth extension of its transitional period amidst a variety of challenges. We have spoken at length about current security and humanitarian concerns, intercommunal conflict, and the road to election as part of the implementation of the peace agreement, and vitally our ongoing efforts as the UN to assist the government of South Sudan in holding credible, fair, and peaceful elections in December 2026. There is also the impact of the Sudanese conflict on South Sudan, both in terms of the number of IDPs, the number of refugees, returnees, the impact on the economy, the potential impact on security in South Sudan. So obviously, the conflict in South Sudan is adding to the already existing domestic challenges of South Sudan. Completing a peaceful democratic transition is a common goal between South Sudan and the international community. And certainly, it's a goal that we share. But it is the South Sudanese themselves, and first and foremost, their authorities, who must do the heavy lifting. As the UN, we're here to assist them in every way we can on their journey to a permanent peace.
Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has received the President of Sierra Leone, Julius Maada Bio, in the State House. He was received on arrival by the Chief of Staff to the President, Femi Gbajabiamila. The Sierra Leonean President, who is in the country for a private engagement, arrived in the State House at about noon for a courtesy visit on the ECOWAS chairman. Nigeria and Sierra Leone are members of the Economic Community of West African States and the African Union and have collaborated on initiatives aimed at promoting peace, stability and development within the region. Nigeria has also been instrumental to peacekeeping operations in several African countries, especially Sierra Leone. Meanwhile, the West African Regional Bloc ECOWAS says a mission that was deployed to Guinea-Bissau to help resolve an election dispute has left the country after the president threatened to expel it. The team was sent in last month to help reach a political consensus on how to hold elections this year. In a statement on Sunday, ECOWAS said its team had met President Embalo, other politicians and civil society groups to try to reach a consensus on when the elections should be held. Guinea-Bissau's general elections had been scheduled for last November, but President Umaro Sissoco Embalo postponed them. He has since announced 30th of November this year as the new date. However, the opposition has opposed the delay and said Mr. Embalo's term should have expired last week. To southern Africa now, heavy rains have caused widespread flooding in KwaZulu-Natal, a province of South Africa. This has left hundreds of people without homes. Some have died and others are missing. Graves have also been destroyed. In 2022, the same province was hit by the worst flood that claimed the lives of about 409 people and thousands of homes destroyed. According to weather reports, more rains are expected in KwaZulu-Natal this week. 3 children are among the dead, and as the provincial government says, it is working towards accommodating those that have been affected by the floods. In the meantime, the deadline for the registration of Spaza shops and food outlets in Gauteng, South Africa, has ended. According to the MEC for Finance in Gauteng, Lebohang Maile, about 4,600 Spaza shops and food outlets have registered and approved. 128 of those are owned by foreign nationals. Maile said in total they received 7,000 registration from foreign nationals. The registration drive follows the deaths of children who lost their lives a few months ago from consuming food allegedly bought from Spaza shops. Numerous local shops have since been shut down for operating illegally, and Miley further mentions that other shops were found to be committing fraud by producing fraudulent documents. 15,478 Spaza shops were found to be non-compliant. We'll take a break now on Network Africa. Still ahead. Muslims all over the continent welcome the holy month of Ramadan. Please join us again for more details. Welcome back to the program. A 4-year-old child has been identified as the second patient to die from the Ebola virus in Uganda after a recent outbreak. The World Health Organization says Uganda's Ministry of Health reported a positive Ebola case at Mulago Hospital. That's the country's only referral center for the virus. and it was discovered in a 4-year-old who died last week. The country confirmed it had recorded 10 cases of a new strain of the virus last week. The first fatality was from a male nurse who died before the outbreak was declared on January 30. In February, the health ministry said all 8 Ebola patients under care had been discharged, but at least 265 contacts remained under strict quarantine in Kampala, the country's capital. In the spirit of Ramadan fasting, which is characterized by the act of charity or giving to people in need, Gombe State Governor here in Nigeria, Inuwa Yahaya, has ordered the distribution of palliatives to the poor and vulnerable persons in the state. The governor directed the committee headed by the Speaker of the State House of Assembly to share all available food items in the store of the state to persons in need, including persons with disability, the aged, and students on campuses.
Acting on the instruction of Governor Inuwa Yahaya, the Committee for Ramadan Palliative Distribution in Gombe State, headed by the Speaker of the State Assembly, is handing over food items to vulnerable persons in the state. The items include 30,000 bags of rice, 6,800 bags of maize, 2,888 bags of sugar, 3,380 cartons of spaghetti, and 2,688 gallons of vegetable oil.
Over 30,000 bags of rice, and also the other items. Also, there is no item that is less than 3,000. So, and he directed that I should distribute all to the poor and vulnerable within shortest possible time.
The items are to be distributed across the 3 senatorial districts and 11 local governments of Gombe State, a gesture commended by the beneficiaries.
I'm very, very pleased with it because it's the first in history. It's the first of its kind. When we start Ramadan, and items that will bring ease to us are given to us. So it's highly commendable, and we are actually thanking His Excellency for this magnanimity.
You know, students, they are like Oliver Twist. The more you give us, the more we ask for more. This distribution didn't capture only NAS, so it at least captured non-separate, GOSA, Youth Parliament, and other things, which also comprises of students and then some youths. So therefore, this tell you that it's a broad one, and we want to assure you that we'll do our best to look at it with fiscal responsibility, so that at least we touch the lives of those that need it the most on our campuses.
Persons with disability also laud the efforts of Governor Inuwa Yahaya's government.
Most of my members are begging in the streets because no way for income. So this government consider this to include people with disabilities to benefit of this palliative.
In his message delivered through the committee, Governor Inuwa Yahaya urges all Muslim faithful to imbibe the good teachings and sacrifices that characterize the holy month of Ramadan.
And as the holy month begins worldwide, for the next 29 or 30 days, Muslims observing the fast will refrain from eating and drinking from dawn to dusk, a period lasting from 12 to 16 hours depending on their location. Or here in Africa, many countries began on the 1st of March, welcoming the month in different ways.
As the month of Ramadan begins, the central mosque in Gombe, North Kivu, stands nearly deserted. The recent capture of the city by M23 rebels has intensified insecurity, prompting many residents, including a significant portion of the Muslim community, to flee. Despite the ongoing crisis, a handful of devoted worshippers continue to gather at the mosque. Sheikh Suleiman, an imam at the mosque, says they will observe Ramadan no matter the situation. Before the M23 advanced, the mosque was a bustling center of worship. Now, many have sought refuge in neighboring countries, while others stay away due to security concerns. In Senegal, hundreds of Muslims gathered at the mosque in Dakar on Saturday, March, in the evening for the first Tarawih prayer, marking the start of Ramadan. They prayed at the Masaliku Dejani Mosque, while the local Imam, Sheikh Abdul Baraka, delivered the Tarawih prayer. This year's Ramadan officially began in Senegal on Sunday, March the 2nd. Islam is reportedly practiced by over 90% of the population across the country. The mosque, defined as the biggest in West Africa, was officially unveiled in 2019, attracting thousands of Muslims. In Côte d'Ivoire, dozens of worshippers flocked to the Mohammed VI Mosque in the capital, Abidjan, on Saturday to attend the prayer on the first evening of Ramadan. The prayer was held at the Mohammed VI Mosque, which was inaugurated in Abidjan last April, under the cooperation of Morocco's Mohammed VI Foundation of African, Leone, and the Ivorian authorities. Worshippers say the mosque's interior greatly contributes to the praying experience. Other Muslims from overseas also expressed joy to take part in the prayer, conveying gratitude for the chance to celebrate the month with the Ivorian Muslims community. Feeding the poor and vulnerable is one of the characteristics of Ramadan. Dozens of locals queued for free meals at Imam Ahmed Raza Jame Masjid on Sunday, as mosques and community organizations across Johannesburg mobilized to combat hunger in one of the city's most impoverished areas, serving free hot meals to hundreds daily during Ramadan. Locals wait for food outside and inside as volunteers stir large pots of halim, chicken akni, and biryani, filling containers as staff distribute meals and bread to those in need.
Our aim is to make sure that we feed our community and make sure that everyone is well fed, especially now in the month of Ramadan. We are living in a poverty-stricken environment where people are struggling for food, for daily food, and our center is here to feed and help people in need.
Leone South, plagued by 35% unemployment rate and rising food prices, has seen demand for aid surge.
We give them halim, and we give them, we do like a chicken akni, biryani, and we are doing this whole month of 30 days, iftar and supper, daily, 30 days. In the month of Ramadan, like if you look now, we do like 25 days on Saturday, 25 days on Sunday, 50 days over the weekend. That's 200 days for the month. And daily cooking we do. We serve the community, those who are in need, they come. Alhamdulillah. So full 30 days of cooking non-stop, serving humanity.
Ramadan for Muslims around the world commemorates the first revelation of the Quran to the Prophet Muhammad. Throughout the month, they perform night prayers and fast from dawn to dusk as a sign of devotion and self-discipline.
The 20th Ismaila Camel Racing Festival is back in Egypt after a 5-year hiatus, drawing hundreds of participants and spectators from across the country. The event featured camels racing alongside young riders with cars following the track to monitor the competition. Mahid Samaha, the festival's director, highlights the evolution of camel racing, noting that it has transformed from a traditional sport practiced during holidays and weddings into a lucrative sports investment worth millions. The 2-day festival, which began in 1995, was suspended after the 2011 protests and later resumed in 2014 before being halted again during the COVID-19 pandemic. Camel racing remains a cherished heritage event in that region with widespread participation from local tribes and communities. And that's it on the program for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde.